on guilt? Well, this might be why. All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating perspective. It comes from Hanshi Deena Naidu, a master who argues that if you want to truly understand the divine, well, you don't find it in a book. You find it through direct personal experience. So yeah, let's get right into it. And he kicks things off with this quote, which, wow, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that tension, that push and pull that I think a lot of us have felt between the rules of organized religion and that deep personal feeling of spirituality. So you might be asking, where is he coming from with this? Well, it's not about digging through old scriptures. His whole philosophy is built on what he calls experiential education. And I love this analogy. It's like the difference between reading about a sunset and actually feeling the warmth of it on your skin as the sky just explodes with color. One is an idea, the other is real. And this is a really interesting critique. Have you ever felt that some religious teachings can feel, I don't know, kind of heavy, like they're based on guilt? Well, this might be why. The argument here is that so many systems are accidentally built on these really negative ideas, and instead of opening you up to the divine, they might actually be shutting that door. Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea to rethink, the image of God itself. We're being asked to look beyond those traditional and honestly often scary pictures of God that maybe we grew up with. And it boils down to this really direct question. I mean, it's such a simple image, right? Almost like something from a children's book. But it's also so powerful, and it has shaped how people think for centuries. And while it's an easy picture to hold in your head, the argument is that this very image might be what's holding us back from a much, much bigger truth. This slide just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you have the common ideas, but on the other, a totally different way of seeing things. The whole point is that God isn't some person up there handing out punishments. God is an essence, an all-encompassing consciousness that is, by its very nature, unconditional love. It's a huge shift, right? From fearing a judge to feeling like you're connected to everything. And this word, prema, this is so important. I want you to think about the deepest, most pure, accepting love you can possibly imagine. Got it? Okay, now what if that wasn't just a feeling, but it was the actual tangible stuff that makes up the entire universe? That's prema. It's not about judgment, it's about pure, unconditional love. All right, let's keep building on this. We've all heard the phrase, the word of God, right? But what if it's not a word at all? What is that phrase really trying to tell us? Yeah, a lot of religions picture the word as a person, a messenger from God, or maybe even a holy book. But from this perspective, that's kind of misleading. It takes something incredibly profound and, well, simplifies it a little too much. So the spiritual truth here is that the word isn't a who, it's a what. And this is so cool because it lines up with everything from ancient spiritual practices to modern physics. The idea is that at the very base of reality, everything is just vibration. And that first primordial sound, om, that's the creative frequency. It's the vibration that brings consciousness and that unconditional love, prema, to life. And it's not just everywhere in our universe, it's omniversal. It's in all realities. Okay, so let's pause for a second. If God is this all-present consciousness and creation is basically a sound, what does that mean for us? This is where it gets really personal. And to figure that out, we've got to look at another one of those common sayings. I'm sure you've heard this one, we're all sparks of God. And look, it sounds beautiful, right? It's a really comforting idea. But the argument here is, if you really think about it, that phrase might actually be holding us back. And the way this perspective breaks it down is with a couple of simple questions. Seriously, ask yourself, if you're a spark, where is it? Is it in your head, your heart? Can you point to it? See, by thinking of ourselves as just one little separate piece of God, we might be missing the big picture. Maybe we're not just a spark from the fire. Maybe we are the fire. And this is the big counterpoint. To be with God, one must be out of their mind. Now, this doesn't mean going crazy. It's talking about those moments, you know the ones, when you're just totally lost in music or standing in nature, and that constant voice in your head just goes quiet. That right there is where true connection happens. It's beyond all the thinking and analyzing. This is such a great way to see how it all connects. It's not really a checklist you have to complete. It's more like a logical progression, one idea flowing into the next. You start with the sound, that vibration of om, and the quality of that vibration is love. And that love, when it's fully realized, is prema, unconditional love. And that is the eternal truth, which is just another way of saying universal consciousness. And what is that all-knowing consciousness? Well, that's God. And that term right there, Sanathan Dharma, is so important. You know that feeling of being spiritual but not religious? This is pretty much the definition of that. It's not a religion with a bunch of rules. It's the name for the pursuit of eternal truth. A truth that's the same for everyone, no matter where you're from or what you believe. Okay, let's pull all these threads together. We've talked about a different way to see God, to understand the word, and to see our own connection to it all. So what's the one thing we need? The one tool that lets us actually know this stuff for ourselves, not just think about it. And it really comes down to this. This is the fork in the road. One path tells you to believe what's written in a book. The other path, it tells you to go out and discover what's real for yourself, through your own life, your own experience. And really, it all boils down to this one simple idea. For him, this isn't just some neat philosophy. He's very clear that his understanding comes from his own experiences, his own encounters. He didn't read it in a library. He lived it. And in a way, that's permission for all of us to trust our own intuition, to see our own lives as the most important sacred text. So we're not going to end with a nice, tidy answer. Instead, we're going to end with a question for you. Because this whole perspective puts the power and the responsibility right back in your lap. It suggests the biggest truths aren't out there somewhere, but they're right here, inside you, just waiting for you to experience them. So, if experience is the best teacher, what's your next lesson?